A dyslexic farm boy sells matches and accidentally builds a $100 billion empire.
He was worth $58 billion. He flew economy class. He drove a 20-year-old Volvo. He ate at McDonald's and considered it a treat. He reused tea bags until they had no color left. He was the richest man in the world, and he built his empire with a secret so dark that when it came out, it nearly destroyed everything he had spent 50 years creating. This is the story of Ingvar Kamprad, the founder of IKEA, the man who changed how the world furnishes its home and hid almost all the money while doing it.
Ingvar Kamprad grew up on a farm in one of the poorest regions of Sweden. By age 5, he was buying matches in bulk from Stockholm and reselling them to neighbors for a small profit. By age 7, he had expanded to selling flowers, fish, and Christmas decorations. By age 11, he had made enough to buy his first bicycle. His school reports said he was energetic, cheerful, and entrepreneurial, but struggled badly with reading and numbers. He was later diagnosed as dyslexic. This is why, to this day, every single IKEA product is named after a Swedish place, person, or nature word, not a number. The founder couldn't reliably remember numbers.
In 1943, at the age of 17, Ingvar Kamprad did two things. He founded a mail-order company called IKEA, and he joined the Swedish Nazi Party. Sweden was officially neutral in World War II, but the country had a significant fascist movement. Kamprad's German father and grandmother were both confirmed Nazi sympathizers. His mentor was a man named Per Engdahl, one of the most prominent fascists in post-war Europe. Swedish intelligence services opened a file on Kamprad in 1943, intercepted his mail, and noted that he held some sort of functionary position in a youth Nazi organization. He was actively recruiting members. This was not a passive, curious youth. This was active participation.
The Flat Pack Revolution and the boycott that built an empire.
In 1956, a photographer working for IKEA's catalogue complained that he didn't have enough room in his car to transport a table. So he removed the legs and packed it flat. That accident, a frustrated photographer removing table legs, became the founding principle of one of the world's most successful business models: flat pack furniture. Ship it flat, assemble it at home. The customer becomes the unpaid factory worker. IKEA's shipping costs collapsed. The prices could be set 30 to 50% below competitors. And they could stack inventory in the store itself, no warehouse needed. One accident by a photographer changed the economics of the global furniture industry forever. When IKEA started undercutting every furniture price in Sweden, established manufacturers were furious. They pressured Swedish suppliers to boycott IKEA entirely, refusing to supply them with any materials. Kamprad's response was genius and ruthless in equal measure. He simply went to Poland. In 1961, IKEA began sourcing furniture from Polish manufacturers at a fraction of Swedish costs. This forced boycott, intended to kill IKEA, instead gave them a permanent cost advantage over every Swedish competitor. The enemies of IKEA built IKEA.
By 2003, the IKEA catalog had the largest annual print run of any publication in the world, larger than the Bible, larger than any newspaper. 200 million copies per year, distributed free in 50 countries. The catalog was not a marketing brochure. It was a carefully designed behavioral tool. Every page engineered to make you want the next item. The rooms shown in the catalog were not real rooms. They were sets built in IKEA's own studio in Älmhult, designed to make you feel like your own home was insufficient. The catalog was discontinued in 2021 after 70 years. In those 70 years, it had trained an entire global generation to want the same things in the same sizes at the same prices.
The secrets beneath the meatballs. In 1973, as IKEA's revenues exploded and Swedish taxes climbed to among the highest in the world, Ingvar Kamprad moved to Denmark. 3 years later, in 1976, he moved again to Switzerland. He would not return to Sweden for 40 years. In Switzerland, Kamprad paid minimal tax on his personal wealth, but the real genius, or the real scandal, depending on your perspective, was what he did with IKEA itself. In 1982, he transferred ownership of IKEA to the Stichting Inga Foundation, a Dutch charitable foundation. Technically, nobody owns IKEA. A charity does. A charity that pays no dividends, has no shareholders, and publishes no accounts. Sound familiar? But here's where it gets darker. IKEA's trademark, the name, the logo, the concept, is owned by a completely separate private company called Inter IKEA Systems, based in the Netherlands. To operate IKEA stores, the foundation must pay Inter IKEA a royalty fee every single year. That royalty, worth billions, makes its way through Luxembourg, Liechtenstein, and the Netherlands Antilles, and ends up benefiting the Kamprad family. The foundation is the public face. The royalty machine is the private engine.
For 50 years, the Nazi chapter of Kamprad's life was his private shame. Then, in 1994, a Swedish newspaper published the evidence. Kamprad called his involvement the greatest mistake of my life and apologized. Donations from his foundation increased immediately. But in 2011, Swedish journalist Elisabeth Osbrink published a book revealing the full depth of the involvement, that he had been an active recruiter, that he had sent a wedding invitation to Per Engdahl in 1950 telling him how proud he was to belong to the same circle, and that in a 2010 interview, 65 years after World War II ended, Kamprad had told her, "Per Engdahl is a great man, and I will maintain that as long as I live." He was 84 years old when he said that. For decades, IKEA's royalty scheme, charging its own stores billions per year for the right to use the IKEA name, passed through the Netherlands with minimal taxation. In 2021, the European Commission concluded that IKEA's Dutch tax arrangements constituted illegal state aid. The bill? 1.1 billion euros in back taxes owed to Inter IKEA to the Netherlands. IKEA contested the ruling. In 2024, the case was still being litigated in European courts. A 1 billion euro tax bill for a company sitting on 25 billion euros in cash is not existential. But it is the first time a government has successfully pulled back the curtain on how IKEA actually moves its money. IKEA employs 220,000 people worldwide. In many of its markets, particularly in developing countries, wages are at or just above the legal minimum. In the United States, IKEA faced an 8-year labor dispute at its Virginia plant. Workers on 12-hour rotating shifts, below average pay, and conditions described by employees as a slaughterhouse for the American dream. The plant was closed in 2019. IKEA's response? They raised the minimum starting wage in many markets in 2022 to $16 per hour. The company that charges you $1 for a hot dog can afford to pay its workers more. The question is whether it chooses to.
How IKEA built the most brilliant and most secretive retail machine on Earth. The IKEA store layout is not accidental. It is a precisely engineered psychological trap, and it is the same in every single one of the 504 stores worldwide. You enter. You follow a fixed path. There are no shortcuts, you cannot go backwards easily, and the exit is always far from the entrance. You pass through room displays that show you how your life could look. The displays use specific psychological techniques. Items are placed slightly below eye level to encourage picking up. Every section ends with a marketplace of cheap impulse items, candles, picture frames, plants. The average customer intends to spend 100 euros. They leave having spent 200 euros. This is not luck. This is architecture.
IKEA is, by volume of customers served, one of the largest restaurant chains in the world. It serves approximately 650 million meals per year across its in-store restaurants. The famous Swedish meatball, sold at near cost, sometimes below cost, is not a loss. It is a strategy. Research showed that customers who ate in the IKEA restaurant spent 30 minutes longer in the store, and every additional 30 minutes equals, on average, 25 euros in additional purchases. The meatball is not food. The meatball is a retention tool.
In 2025, IKEA generated 44.6 billion euro in revenue. It is owned by a Dutch charitable foundation. Its trademark is controlled by a private Liechtenstein holding. Its cash sits in accounts across 4 countries. It employs 220,000 people in 504 stores. And for most of its existence, the man who built it paid almost no tax on any of it. When The Economist investigated IKEA's structure in 2005, they concluded it was complex beyond comprehension. A company that has taken the concept of tax minimization to an art form. The furniture you assemble in your living room is built by the most brilliantly structured tax architecture in corporate history. The legacy, a chair, a scandal, and a question about whether it matters. In 2014, 40 years after leaving Sweden, Ingvar Kamprad moved back. His wife had died in 2011. He returned to Småland, the same province where he had sold matches as a boy. In 2015, he paid Swedish income tax for the first time in his life. He was 89 years old. The tax payment was 640,000 euros on declared income of 1.9 million euros. His actual fortune, according to Bloomberg, over 35 billion euros. He died on 27 January 2018, aged 91, in the same Småland he had left 40 years earlier. His estate, left to 3 sons, Peter, Jonas, and Matthias. The foundations remain. The structures remain. The tax arrangements remain. Nothing has changed except the
Ingvar Kamprad built the most successful furniture company in human history by understanding one thing. People want their lives to look better than they feel. He gave them a maze full of beautiful rooms at prices they could afford. He gave them meatballs to keep them inside the maze. He gave them flat-pack boxes that made them feel proud when they built something with their own hands. And while they assembled their Billy bookshelves, he was in Switzerland, routing the profits through the Netherlands, Luxembourg, and Liechtenstein, paying almost none of it in tax, flying economy class, eating at McDonald's, and corresponding with fascists. Was he a genius? Unquestionably. Was he a hypocrite on a scale that history has rarely matched? He preached the democratization of good design, a better everyday life for the many people, while building one of the most elaborate tax avoidance structures in corporate history to ensure that the many people paid for the roads, the schools, and the hospitals that he and his foundation did not. The Billy bookshelf in your living room cost 60 euros. The man who sold it to you was worth $58 billion. He flew economy to get there, and he was still calling fascists great men at age 84. That is IKEA. That is the real story.
IKEA.